Water, water everywhere, and all the boats did shrink. Water, water everywhere, nor any drop to drink. I don't know how many of you remember this poetry you know, from your childhood. Any wild guesses as who is the author of this poetry? Okay, I'll repeat. Water, water everywhere, and all the boats did shrink. Water, water everywhere, nor any drop to drink. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for this opportunity. And a good friend of mine, George, invited me over here. Great honor to be here. My name is Ajish Venugopalan. I currently head marketing for the telecommunications business unit for Wipro Limited and based out of Bangalore. Have been working across the globe. Last week I was in Spain for the Mobile World Congress. Got to see, I think Sedu, you never did have to sell Vodafone to all of us. We are all aware of Vodafone and what Vodafone could offer to us. So having said that now, I'm counting the last few days with Wipro, and I'm moving out and starting this company called ServoCell. And that's why my deck will show the logo of ServoCell. So I'm trying to aggressively brand this across the country and abroad. Some of you had questions on partnerships. I think Jayakrishan had a very valid question as to what are the procurement departments on your customer organizations looking for. I will try to address that question through some of my slides. Having said that, currently the world, feel free to stop me whenever you have a question, and feel free to kick me out of this room if I don't just do justice to my job. And I really do mean it when I say that. If I don't talk sense, the door is here. Please kick me out of the place, all right? I don't deserve to be here if I don't make sense to any one of you. So having said that, I'm going to talk about micro-sourcing, how the organizations are going to take certain decisions on identifying a partner like you. Most of you are CEOs here. As far as I know, I've gone through the audience profile here. Many of them are CEOs here of small and mid-sized IT services organization. Very few CMOs out here, and I believe that I'm able to capture some of your expectations and cover it through the brief talk that I'll have. We are 30 minutes late, so I'll cut it short. I won't bore you for a long time. So having said that, today the world is facing a big crisis. And the crisis is not climate crisis. It's a crisis of human resource. It's a big crisis of human resources. Now, there's a good news as well as the bad news. The good news is that India as a country is a land of a lot of people and a lot of talent, ample talent available. Then obviously your question will be, if you have lots of talent in the country, how is it a crisis? Let me explain how talent is going to be a crisis for organizations like yourselves and large organizations like Wipro or Infosys. We've got about, let me just quickly run you through what I'll be talking about. I'll talk about talent crisis. I'll talk about understanding the procurement function in your customer organization. So only if you understand the procurement function in your customer organization, you know what to pitch in. How do you partner? How do you sell? And what do you sell to them, right? Then I'll talk about the buy model adaptive sourcing strategy. How companies like a Vodafone or an Airtel are trying to source a small player like yourself. And need of the hour is innovation and the myths surrounding innovation. And the success factor. How do you bring in collective creativity to ensure that you're going to help your customer succeed? Right. So let me come to the first part of the presentation, talent crisis. When I say talent crisis, we have 50% of India's population. That's why people like Hugo, Jennifer are interested in our country, because we are talented, right? We have about 35,539 colleges across the country. Good thing, extremely good thing. We've got 50% of the population less than the age of 25. That means most of the population is under the age of 25. Either they are in college or a fresher, just started working in any of the organization, right? Despite of all this, what's the crisis all about? 44 national universities, right? Central universities, state universities, 306 state universities, deemed universities like your Amrita, right? Despite of all these things, we still have a talent crisis. If you look at the numbers, Every year, this is a slightly dated number. As of today, we've got about 26 million students graduating every year in our country. 26 million students graduating in a year in our country. I don't have the statistics for the world, but I'm sure the entire world is facing a talent crisis because essentially the educational system was developed to cater to the industry. And if you look at the trends, about 16% of the overall population are engineers because mera beta engineer banega. That's what every parent tells a son or a daughter in our country. Nobody says that, okay, my daughter will become a Barka Datta or will become somebody else, no, in the communications field. Everybody says that, mera beta, ne to meri beti, I'm sorry to use Hindi in between, sorry. That means my son or my daughter would become an engineer. That's what everybody thinks. You know, and an engineer will come and grab a job in IT and help the world economy grow. This is the ambition of a typical middle-class Indian mindset. Having said that, 26.5 million students graduating every year, companies are going to have a real tough time identifying whom do you hire. If you look at Naukri.com, if you look at Monster.com, every CV will look alike. Every resume, am I right, Faisal? But if I'm wrong, no, as I promised, no, you can kick me out of the room. Every CV will look alike. So if I were to hire a marketer for Wipro, every CV will have social media marketing, Facebook AdWords, Google AdWords, all the genuine relevant keywords will be in the resume. When finally we sit in front of the guy, interview the person, you understand, okay, this guy doesn't know anything. So my time, my investment in hiring the right resource for my organization gets wasted. And that's what I mean by talent crisis. 26.5 million graduates every year. Out of that, 16% of them are engineers, about 37% from art. So marketer has got a tougher job than an IT recruiter, right? So this is one of the largest crises that the globe today is facing. Now, I'll park this subject here for a while. I'll get to the next subject, and we'll finally, towards the end of the session, we will come back to this session and we'll try and see if we can solve this problem. Is it going to be easy to solve this problem, right? Now, this is what I said. Hiring is going to be a key challenge for large organizations, and hence solutions for them would be microsourcing. When I say microsourcing, they will have to look at a small player or a mid-sized player or crowdsourcing, or to go with a crowd co-innovation approach. That's where people like Hugo and Jennifer are creating a platform like Equipa, which will enable smaller and nimble teams to come and pitch in for a deal, win the deal, and innovate for your customer. One could be innovation. I don't mean that you will innovate for all your customers. You could help them run the business. You could help them transform the business. So I'll come to it later and explain what it really means. What are the kind of projects that you should be really looking for, right? So moving to the next part of the presentation, if all of you here are CEOs, and CEO's job is to sell. So you're all trying to sell in Europe, US, maybe Asia Pacific. If you don't understand your sourcing manager on the other side of the world, what are you going to sell to them? So that's essentially what I'm going to cover here. So this is from Gartner. How many of you are familiar with Gartner? Yeah, Hans Gartner is. Hans, no, thanks to your video, that 4-minute video that you have put up on the beam, I was really trying hard to be punctual. Now, that's an essential cultural difference between India and the foreign countries. You know, we say couple of minutes in India could be 30 minutes, but couple of minutes in UK is precisely 2 minutes because it's a couple of minutes. So essentially a cultural difference that I think we should really address and bridge to serve our customers better. So I was just slightly digressing from the subject. If you look at what Gartner is saying, the kind of new businesses which is coming in, digital transformations, digital businesses that people are trying to enter, And the IoT, there's an IoT person somewhere sitting here, trying to do something in IoT. Latest buzzwords, and everybody in the world today are focusing on IoT, virtual reality, digital business transformation. Uh, uh, in the Mobile World Congress, the main theme was IoT. Samsung was having an IoT, even a VR theater in itself in Barcelona last week. And it's quite amazing, LG has launched a phone with the glasses, with the VR glasses. You can wear the VR glasses and experience a different world and altogether. So that's where the world is moving towards. So while the world is moving towards that direction, there's a lot of scope for people like us who is starting up, people like you who are mid-segment companies, to innovate and bring in uniqueness into your, bring in uniqueness or differentiate your businesses from the rest of the world. So this is what Gartner says. Of course, not Hans Gartner, but the Gartner as a company. Now, what are the challenges? Typically, what are the challenges that the sourcing managers really go through, right? Traditional sourcing strategies are not working for them. What do you mean by a traditional sourcing strategy? Some Accenture, let's say Vodafone wants to do business with an IT systems integrator like a Wipro or an Infosys. They're trying to bid for a particular, they're trying to get a bid for a particular deal. They float an RFP. We will all respond to that. They will evaluate, go through the traditional evaluation process, and post the evaluation process, they will, from maybe 10 different vendors, they will dip it to 5, then they'll dip it to 3, then finally they'll arrive at a number as 1, who is going to be the lucky vendor who will essentially partner with Vodafone to deliver a transformative business service, right? So one of the challenges that the sourcing managers today across your client organizations are facing is, normal and the traditional sourcing strategy is really not working for them. Because, number 2 point there, because the reason is their businesses are evolving. Why are their businesses evolving? Their businesses are evolving because customers like you and me are more demanding. I want to hear music on the touch of a button. So Airtel has got Wynk. On the touch of a button, I hear music on my phone. Earlier, there was, India is a land where we have a lot of piracy issue, right? Nobody used to buy music. With Wynk or Savan.com coming in, there is a change in trend that we see in the world, which is I go and buy music rather than Googling it and downloading it today in our country, from India's perspective, right? So that's a digital innovation that these organizations are trying to bring in. And if you're not able to help your customer innovate, then sustainability, scalability is going to be a big challenge for all of us here. That includes you and me. The third point is, unlike traditional providers, digital innovation requires a small and nimble company who will come on board and help with innovation, right? And in order to do that, coming back to my earlier point of talent crisis, the first thing that you should solve is your sourcing strategy, use your right recruitment strategy. Whom do you want to bring on board in your organization is what you need to change first. These are some of the challenges, and let's try and see what does Gartner recommend to change the process. If you have any questions, feel free to stop me. I'm happy to take questions. Sourcing managers are adapting to new, agile and more iterative strategy to identify a partner, like a Wipro or an Infosys, or maybe like a partner like one of you, right? Faster decision cycles. In a traditional organization, I myself is starting a company. I'm trying to get myself enrolled as a vendor to a large player like an L&T. They take 3 months, not specifically to L&T, but in many other large organizations, they typically take about 2 to 3 months to enroll a new organization as a vendor to their company. So which is a tedious process, a lot of paperwork, documentations, which goes in. So if you are taking longer time to identify a partner, then businesses definitely does get affected. So sourcing managers are trying to make faster decision cycles, make the partners and enroll a vendor faster and quickly. That's what they're trying to do. Creating a separate POC, proof of concept environment. In order to try and identify the right partner, they are open to create a new environment wherein they will give they'll identify 5 or 6 new startups or new small and mid-sized companies whom they can try out. They give a POC to them, right? And they post the POC, they further get into evaluation, I'll show you a graph, I'll show you a diagram as how that entire new sourcing cycle happens. Revise the traditional sourcing and contracting processes, create partnerships. Many of you here are looking for partnerships. As a marketing vendor, I could also try and bridge the gap between both of you. There's a company in Netherlands and the company in India. My job is to ensure that now how do I help a company in Netherlands to come and penetrate in India, and on the other side, I also help an Indian company to go to a foreign market. That's what I do as a consultant. Right? So these are some of the recommendations that Gartner has suggested, and many of the sourcing managers are really trying to adapt to the new sourcing strategies. So IT is moving towards adaptive sourcing strategies. If you look at information technology business across the world, is moving towards an adaptive sourcing strategy, and this is the new model which Gartner has come out with. It's a very recent report, November 2015, so just a three-month-old report. Sad thing is, the moment I move out of Wipro, I won't be able having access to many of this intelligence that I'm able to come and share with you, right? So there are 3 different layers if you look at the entire sourcing model. The first layer, so let me explain what innovate, differentiate, and run are. What are companies really looking for? Anybody wants to take this question? When you are trying to sell to somebody, probably e-lancing, or maybe Equipa is going to try and change that terminology to equipying, right? What are your customers looking from you? Are they looking for running the business? Are they looking at transforming their business? Or are they looking at bringing in innovation in their businesses? The traditional versus the new iterative sourcing models. The reason I'm talking about is, it will help you understand what your sourcing guy in your customer organization is looking for. Traditionally, they create a sourcing strategy, right? Then they evaluate a few set of people. Then they do a contract negotiation. They give away the project. This is what typically in a traditional sourcing environment, this is what happens. What's a new model proposing? You create a sourcing strategy, then you go to the market and scan the market, see who are the players in this. So my sourcing strategy could, let's assume that I'm trying to create a sourcing strategy to shell out an innovative project. So I create a sourcing strategy around my innovative solution. Once the sourcing strategy is ready, I scan the market and figure out who is this IoT partner whom I can partner with. Is it going to be ThingWorx, or is it going to be PTC, or it could be any of those companies whom you may want to evaluate and partner with them, or create them as a new vendor. So you scan the market. Once you scan the market, you identify a few people. You give them the POC. Once the POC is done, either you could give the contract directly, if you look at the diagram, from POC to contract directly, or you could come back and evaluate the POC. Once the evaluation is done, and if you're happy with the evaluation, you can give away the contract, and from contract you get into execution, and from execution you get to exit. This is how a typical sourcing cycle really works. This is a new model that we are talking about. So if they're not happy with the evaluation, they sort of go back. So if POC is there, from POC you can directly go back to your strategy. If you're not satisfied with the POCs, you directly get back to the strategy, re-strategize. Right? So this is the new model that Gartner has been talking about. I think it's going to be useful for most of you here. And in order to sustain in the industry, in order to be one of those identified vendors, the only solution that you have is to innovate. Innovate in processes, innovate in terms of a solution or a product, innovate in terms of your creativity. Innovation could be either for a product, service, process. It's a very broad subject. So I can't cover the entire subject in a very short period of time. But generally, there is a myth around innovation. People do think that if I were to innovate and come up with a new product, then I want an ROI coming back. I need return coming immediately. That's a misnomer. That's a myth. You cannot be looking at a return on investment if you're looking at innovation. So these are some of the myths that we are talking about. So ROI is the most important innovation metric. I think may not be the right thing as per Gartner. Right? And I'm just trying to share what I've learned through Gartner. People know what they want. Just ask them. If you think that what your customer wants, probably you're mistaken. There are times when your customer really do not know what they really want. So how do you solve that problem, right? You know who your best innovators are. You're running a large organization, 40 people team, 50 people team. You think that you know that Mr. XYZ sitting right next to my cabin is the best innovator in my company. You are terribly mistaken. Coming back to the talent crisis where I started, we are a country of 26.5 million graduates, students graduating every year. How do you really identify a person in your team who's really, really capable of innovating? Reiterating what Hugo said in his speech earlier, we are really, really hierarchical, right? There's a CEO, then there's a VP, then there's a director, then there's a senior manager, then there's a manager, then there is a senior executive, then there is an executive who's a poor foot soldier who's doing all the dirty job, right? But he doesn't get noticed because of your hierarchy. So it's real high time that you change the system. Both from your hierarchical perspective, as well as there's a different debate on the education system that we are currently running that also needs to change. And that's a change that I'm watching for, and that's the only reason why I'm here, when George invited me over to come and speak. The value of new idea is self-evident. It is not. Anybody can have an idea. I have an idea, Faisal can have an idea, Hugo can have an idea. How do you know that this is the idea that you really want to go with? So unless and until you start hearing voices of all the people in your team, you are really not sure, which idea to go after. Whether it is the right idea, is there a market for that particular idea? If I invest in that idea, is the return guaranteed for me? Right? Big problems require big solutions? No. Most of the innovations are very, very simple. People think that innovation is a very, very complex task, but it's a most simple thing. But there is an innovative paradoxes most of the time when we are trying to innovate. So let me get to the third part of the presentation, which actually really talks about how can people like us be successful. So this could apply for your enterprise business. This could apply for your hiring processes. Aspirations versus passion. I want to be an astronaut, but I hate physics. It's a clear mismatch of my aspiration and my passion. My aspiration is to become an astronaut, but I don't love physics. So if you don't love physics, you can never be an astronaut. How many of you really, really ask this question when you are interviewing a candidate that whom you are looking at to hire? Right? We look at, okay, 10 standard, I've got 90%, 12 standard has got 87%, graduation has got 80%. Oh, fairly good enough. Oh, he's from IIM Bangalore. Oh, great, I'm going to hire him. Nobody looks at the psychological aspects of identifying a talent, and there's no way that we can do unless and until you spend time with the candidate whom you really think that is the right person to come and join your team. So this is from a hiring aspect, right? This could also be applied from your company's aspiration aspect. What is your aspiration? Is your aspiration to become a systems integrator? Is your aspiration to become a niche, innovative service provider to the world? Is your aspiration to become a normal, any other IT company? What's a niche that you are trying to offer, right? And your team's passion, which largely includes the founder's passion, and your team's passion, and the aspiration of the organization has to really, really match. If that doesn't go hand in hand, it's going to be a difficult journey for all of us here, right? Number two, innovation and leadership. How many of you have heard of this person? Let me throw two different questions at you, okay? How many of you have heard of this person called Sir Ken Robinson? Anyone? Okay, can you measure creativity? Can you measure creativity? The answer is yes, you can. Yeah, willing to invest your time, right? So what, I'll tell you, Sir Ken Robinson is a creativity expert from, basically from UK, but settled in the US. And he teaches, he's an educationalist, he teaches. What he did is, he did a very small experiment with with children at the age of 3. And what he found out was, uh, he found that the creativity quotient was at about 98%. Then he waited for another 5 years. He went back to the same set of kids, and another 5 years, from 3 to 8. So the kids grew up to 8 years old. He did the same survey with them, and he tried to identify the creativity quotient. And he found that the creativity quotient dipped to 32% from 98%. Then he waited for another 7 years, and he waited for these kids to become 15-year-old kids, while they are passing out of school. He did the same experiment with the same set of kids, and he found that this time the creativity dipped to 2%. So that means education largely disallocates people from their natural talent. And what you should be looking for is natural talent. I don't have an answer. If you ask me how do you scale, if you were to identify natural talent and scale your business, I don't have an answer for that. No, the only answer can be your passion to do best at what you are trying to do, right? That is only by means of investing your time in setting up the right team for your organization. Now, how do you do this? Let me ask you another question. My second question is, how many of you know Edwin Catmull? How many of you know Toy Story? How many of you watched the movie called Toy Story? Ratatouille? Okay, everybody knows his creations, but nobody knows Edwin Catmull, because Edwin Catmull is the founder of Pixar. And when a lady called Linda Hill, who is a professor with Harvard, when she was studying Edwin Catmull and Pixar, they figured out that Pixar really follows this approach where they go in for creative aberration, creative agility, and creative resolution. So that means an XYZ in my company, whom you don't really directly work with, might have a great idea, but that poor chap is ignored all the time. Right? So one of your biggest ideas is going to be from your reception desk. You never know. Right? So creative aberration really means, you should have the courage to let an idea go off if it's not really worthy. Now, I don't know, me and George, we are childhood friends, we were together from school. I don't know how many ideas we've let go on in the last 17, 18 years. We've been thinking of doing business together. We've not arrived at an idea which we really want to pursue. Right? So creative aberration is to let go an idea which you think is really worthy, but your team might not appreciate that. Creative agility is to test and experiment on an idea, quickly create a prototype. Now, can you put in a small prototype within 48 hours and see if it works for you, right? And creative resolution is bringing in after your experimentation, bringing in the right set of matrices and resolutions into the idea to ensure that it is flawless. That's what I'm talking about in this model. So the second aspect of your success mantra is really to innovate and create good leadership in your organization. Probably harnessing creativity in your company could be a good idea. The third aspect is individualism versus collectivism. How to explain this? If you look at the graph here, extreme left, the dark red maroon color are a set of happy people. So especially if you look at countries like UK, Germany, Canada, US, Australia, people are really, really happy there. As you move towards the lighter shades of India is in orange. So India is somewhere average. We are neither very happy nor too very unhappy, right? If you look at Somalia or some of the African countries, they're very, very unhappy people. What are we doing for them? Can your company do something for those people who is really in need of technologies, or who's really in need of their daily bread and butter, is a question. So what are you trying to do through your company? Is your company trying to solve a collective problem? Or is your company trying to solve only a small problem which can be solved only in one place, right? So the way you look at things, your perspectives needs to change from so what example do I give? Apple, for example, what Steve Jobs did, or his team did rather, I'm able to get a good user experience because of what he did. There was a collectivism in what he tried to do, and therefore he was successful, right? If I don't do this or follow this, it's your choice. the limited chances that you might scale to a large level, or you might sustain for some time, but you may not be able to become the best of the best organizations in the world. So, good. So essentially what I'm talking about, good citizenship, giving back to society, need versus want. So need versus want is, again, coming back to from a marketeer's perspective, does your product address the need and want of the normal consumers, right? For example, Wink.com or a Savan.com or an Uber or an Ola helps me today, right? So as an end consumer, I'm happy with using that particular product, and I'm sure there's some innovative company who's come up with that, right? There might be partners like you who would have helped Uber or Ola to create that particular product that we enjoy today. So you have to look at a mass and see if there is a collectivism in the idea or the thing that you're trying to sell. Is my business solving a collective problem is what I'm really...
See, personally, I like the presentation. Why? Because it addressed the pain area of a person who managed a company in terms of talent skill, because most of the technical people want to talk only about forms and databases rather than the business achievements of the clients. So most of the programmers always think about that. But the problem is actually when you talk about that Gartner new system, the question is mine, is basically the POC and the contract, that particular cycle you're explaining. Most of the time, because I'm also consulting for the startups, basically. So what happens is actually, myself had been changed the strategy of the traditional marketing activities rather than consulting for the startup companies to ensure the project to us. Something like we give the complete solution. Rather than the solution, we give the complete business solution also to achieve their business targets. So we also have the digital marketing team for promoting, as well as product engineering and things like that. So I feel I'm grabbing some project because of the new methodologies which I'm adopting in the marketing. But the thing is actually, when you talk about POC, whether Gartner is explaining or you are explaining that POC, ourselves is investing or the client is investing, the first question. And the second question is actually, when we try to more creative or innovative from the development company as a company, whether when we talk about startups, they don't have the much budget initially. Always they goes, initially want to invest a small amount and look for the angels afterwards. So more creative the company, whether they have the ample money to invest for the creativity rather than what they are looking for. So always we have a challenge that actually we also to be the part of, we want a project basically. But then they ask for the POC, then it's a time that we also want to invest with them actually, they ask for that. So, but when you come from your Wipro background, definitely big potential investor coming to do some kind of new concept with you, like Wipro. So they have ample money to invest and do the R&D and POC. So as a small and medium company, how we address this particular scenario of...
You got a chance to kick me out now.
No, yeah, I will decide after this.
Okay. Sure. So tough question, Faisal. No, as a person you're running an organization, it's a good question, but no, very tough question for me to answer. So first question is, companies like large enterprises are. So what I mean by POC is what I was referring to is large organizations like a Vodafone or a Airtel or an AT&T is willing to let a POC go to a player like you. That's a good news, right? That's really, really a good news. So that's the POC that I meant. To address the second part of the same question, whether to do a POC in-house to create a new product is a call that you will have to take. Whether you want to be a services organization or a product organization is a call that you as a business owner will have to address that question, right? So if you are looking at creating a new product, right, then it does make sense for you to invest and create a POC, to do some prototypes, see if that solution is running for you or not. And that's the second part of the first question. The third question is, how does a small organization like you address get into a large organization, if I'm right.
Yeah, my question is about the relationship aspect, what you just told. I am basically an entrepreneur, more than a manager or. So, basically you talk about the Uber ensemble that people from India can co-create a product in the US market or globally wherever. So I'm looking for a strategy, being a marketing person like you, what strategy you have for an Indian company or an Indian entrepreneur so you can co-create a product or a service or some business with people in US or UK or wherever.
It's a very, very broad, what's your name, I'm sorry?
Sorry?
What's your name?
My name is Ajesh. I will tell you an example.
Okay, I'm Ajesh.
Yeah, I'm Ajesh. I will tell you an example. Because in 2004, I do development also. So through some business networking website, I found a partner in Canada. And we created a website that is selling these resorts in Caribbean islands. Okay. So I was able to meet somebody like that. So I can co-create something, and we can market into some, so we can add value to some market. So what are the strategy? I mean, being an Indian, sitting here, what I can do?
Okay, it's a very broad question. So Ajesh, I think to some extent I understand being an Indian myself.
No, I'm not talking as a company, but being an entrepreneur.
Right, I got your question. I think Hans is the right person to answer that question, though I think he's got a session coming up. It's got to do with bridging cultural differences to a large extent. Though we say that we are one of the best country to have the best education system, we are one of the countries to have the best IT talent pool available in our country. But though how many, if you look at out of this 26.5 million people who graduate and join an IT company, how many of them are really customer facing? How many of them are really, really talking to a foreigner? When I say foreigner, somebody like Hans or Hugo or Jennifer, right? So that part is largely missing. If there is a cultural divide, if there is a cultural gap, it's not going to be easy for you to do business with any foreign countries. Right? So in order to do that, I don't know if you eat beef. There's a row of debate happening over eating beef in our country. Right? If you travel abroad, starting from your food habits, to your drink habits, to your complete personality needs to change. You need to be really, really in sync with what the gentleman from the other country is thinking. And that's when you are able to strike a relationship with the individual. And if you're able to strike the right relationship with the individual, I think your problem is solved. That's a larger part of your problem, and the primary part of the problem. The secondary part of your problem is to have an idea, right? That is possible only after debating and identifying synergies between both the parties.
I mean, what are the platforms available? I mean, in your knowledge?
LinkedIn is a very good platform for that. LinkedIn is a very good platform for networking with a lot of people. It's a matter of picking up the phone and start talking to them. Number two, doing it remotely is very, very challenging. I would recommend, if you have enough funding, travel abroad. Last 1 year, I've been in 7 different countries. So thanks to Wipro for that, for allowing me to go all the places and experience different countries, different culture, right? I got lucky, that way. But if you're able to do that, that's the best thing that you can do.
LinkedIn is the only platform available.
LinkedIn is the best platform as far as I know.
What Mr. Hugo Mesa, I mean, they have a platform like they list the companies.
No, you have platforms like Equipa, which is new.
I mean, they list a list of providers, so people can have a look at it.
Of course,
I mean,
yes.
I'm looking vice versa, like people to people, like co-creating.
Correct. So you're looking at networking largely. You're looking at networking not only to win business.
But being a person, I mean, in India, I'm confused. I mean, because I have a talent, but to make the most of it, I don't know how to.
No, you talked about. Let me put it in a different way. If you want to learn swimming, you have to jump into the water.
Yeah.
Right? So without jumping into the water, you can't learn swimming. So it's as simple as that. So you start doing it. I mean, good that you're here. You got 40, 50 people over here. Start networking with them. Start talking to them. We are not going to eat you. None of them are going to eat you. You should gauge the courage to go out and start talking to people. That's the only way that you can succeed. Unless and until I was brave enough to talk about Servocell, though I'm with Wipro today, right? So you have to gauge the courage to do that. And once, it's only a starting trouble. I think once you set your foot down, things are going to be much more easier for you. So jump into it. My suggestion is jump into it. You are on the right track, jump into it.